Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for listening in. My name is Ari Zuckerman, Vice President of Centercourt Sports Academy. For all the new listeners, our goal for the Centercourt webinar series is to keep valuable information flowing to the international and to the local tennis community. Keep all of you engaged with our creative ideas through these tough times. Today's main topic is catching up with tennis coaching legend Nick Bollettieri. Nick is the inventor of the Tennis Academy, the Academy training model, and the worldwide tennis academy industry. Nick is the founder and president emeritus of IMG Academy, the first largest and most prestigious tennis academy in the world. Nick is also the trainer of an unprecedented 10 #1 ranked ATP WTA tennis players, including Andre Agassi, Maria Sharapova, the Williams sisters, Jim Courier, Monica Seles, Boris Becker, Marcelo Rios, Jelena Jankovic, and Martina Hingis. Nick is a member of 10 Hall of Fames, including the International Tennis Hall of Fame and the Black Tennis Hall of Fame. He is also widely recognized as one of the greatest coaches in tennis history. He is an author, philanthropist, and a motivational speaker. On a personal note, Nick is 88 years young. He has been teaching tennis for only 60 years, started teaching in Miami. He has 5 biological kids and 2 adopted children from Ethiopia. Nick has been married 8 times. God bless you, Nick. On that note, Mr. Conrad Singh, my regular guest, who is a coaching legend, is joining us as well. Conrad is the director of coaching and head of performance and head of performance at the Centercourt Sports Academy. On that note, let me throw it over to you, Conrad. I'm sure you have some questions for our guest today.
Thank you, Ari, and thank you so much, Mr. Nick Bollettieri, for joining us here. We're beyond excited to have you come and speak to us here in our Centercourt Sports Academy, Centercourt Tennis Academy program. Our founder, Clay Bibby, has asked us to say welcome, and we're delighted to have you. Nick, we got to start with, what are your thoughts at this very difficult time? Obviously with the coronavirus and all the players having time at home. What are your thoughts at this time, Nick?
This message is to everybody. Instead of saying, why me? Why is this happening? We have to accept the truth and say it's here and work together through these troubled times. Now remember something. People often ask me, Nick, how do you judge champions? Not only in tennis, but in life. When the SHIT hits the fan and people can come through and find a way, you can play for me. So remember, everybody, get out there and say to yourself, it's me, and if we work together, we can find a way through it instead of spending time on negativism, because that's not going to change anything.
That's a great point, Nick, and we really appreciate those insights. Obviously, we've asked many of our guests who are coming on some of the key attributes of a terrific coach. We do have a lot of parents, a lot of players, and also coaches who are tuned in. I'd love to get your insight, being the world's most famous coach yourself with these unbelievable results that Ari has just outlined. What do you look at and what do you feel are the characteristics of a great coach?
Number one, to be a better listener and know a lot about your product before you start. Andre Agassi made me a better listener. Listen to the parents' expectations, to the coach, to the student, to the business person. And if you listen first, it gives you a chance to come back with a better answer.
It's a great answer. I guess on that same vein, you've had arguably the greatest talents in our sport over many decades have come through you and your programs and your genius. What are the characteristics that you've commonly seen amongst those players when they were very young and very early in the pathway?
And by the way, don't forget Tommy Haas and my Anna Kournikova.
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you and tell everybody that's tuned in. whatever success I've had is to work within their style. Instead of having everybody do everything the same way, never worked. For instance, Mrs. Curry wrote me a beautiful letter, Linda. Jimmy was 14 going on 15. Nick, thank you so much for the scholarship. Would you please change his baseball grip on the backhand? You know what I told Jim? Forget the backhand, baby. Hit all forehands. You know something? Jim's baseball grip on the backhand wasn't that bad. Now, another student. Many years ago, there was a tournament called Sports Goofy before the Orange Bowl. I had the best young girl in the country in the 12 and under, Kim Caceres. It was the finals. My coaches called me from Orlando. Nick, 2 and 3. Congratulate our girl. Nick, she got beat. You better go to the Orange Bowl. So I journeyed down to the Orange Bowl, and I asked this coach, what court is this young lady playing on? Court 4, Nick. As I walked between the courts, there were bushes and backdrops. You couldn't see the student. But all of a sudden, everybody, I heard, ee, ee. I said, what is this? Something stuck in the fence? And I walk around. I see this skinny little girl standing on the baseline. 2 hands here, 2 hands there. Ee, ee. Guess what? I gave the mother, the father, the brother, and this young girl a scholarship to the Nick Bollettieri Tennis Academy, now the IMG. Who was that girl? Monica Seles. And if I had changed her to move back 4 or 5 feet behind the baseline, she never would have been the player she turned out to be.
Yeah, that's true. Remember, we spoke to Gigi Fernandez last week, who said Seles was the toughest competitor. How she attacked the ball from crazy. I already got a couple questions here. So one real good one from a gentleman named Mark from Ireland. He's asking Nick, what's your finest moment in tennis or moments?
There are 2 of them that stick out a lot. One of them in the late 80s, early 90s, sitting at a bench at the French Open, and this man said, Nick, what are we going to do about the hundreds of thousands of boys and girls who never get to hit a ball? Don't worry about it, baby. That man was Arthur Ashe, and I started the Ashe Bollettieri program in Newark, New Jersey, with Bob Davis, the director, and ran it for 13 years. And today, I'm doing that program in Florida again with Bob Davis, called the Bollettieri Tennis and Learning. The other one, the 2, being the first Caucasian male to be elected to the Black Tennis Hall of Fame, baby. My young son from Ethiopia said, Daddy, you got to work on your tan. And last, tough not to mention, Andre Agassi winning Wimbledon in 1992.
Well, outstanding.
Last, one more.
Obviously,
getting letters and from phone calls from people that have made an impact on their life, not just tennis. And that impact goes on for generations. So coaches, keep in mind, when you're working with children or with people, that negativism or positivism can make an impact on their entire life. And you never let a student, no matter who they are, ever leave the tennis courts thinking they can't do it. I don't care if you stay there all night, baby, you find a way.
It's fantastic. So, Nick, obviously you've dealt with many different styles of parenting regarding the players, the children, and their potential talents. What words of advice would you give to any parents who are out there with young kids that are keen to follow tennis?
I want everybody to listen closely. I grew up in a black Italian neighborhood. My grandmother was the ruler of the neighborhood. This is how she greeted me when I came home from school. Sonny, Venequa, give Grandma a big kiss. Yes, Grandma. You a good boy in school today? Yes. You do everything teachers say to do? Yes, go out and play. Your parents, your coaches, shame on you. Did you win today? Did you get the business deal today? That is absolutely incorrect. And no one said it better than my friend who helped me get started with my tennis camps in Wisconsin. My Green Bay Packers never lost, baby. We just ran out of time. Remember that, parents. You judge people not only by the scoreboard, but if they did everything they could do, whatever endeavor they are in life, they can play on my team.
That's great. If there was anything, Nick, that you would, I mean, obviously your era of players, Courier, Agassi, all these absolute legends that came through, and many more we're not mentioning. What is there you think that needs to happen today in the game of tennis for America to get back to that greatness and to have so many amazing players lined up?
Well, first of all, Martin Blackman, my former student for 5 years, is the head of the USA development. And you know what they're doing? They're funding coaches and players that don't have the funds. I gave scholarships to everybody. Tennis is a very expensive sport. In New York, $200 to rent a court, $200 for a lesson. These boys and girls are going to other sports. So congratulations to the USTA that is giving scholarships to boys and girls that have talent that cannot afford it.
Right, making it more accessible. Yeah, that's another question similar coming from one of our students. Alexei Kobin wants to know what you think. I guess he's a big Medvedev fan. He wants to know what you think of Medvedev as a player. Maybe I'll throw in also some of the younger guys, Felix and some of the younger up-and-comers that are trying to give the big three a run for their money.
Medvedev is super backhand, control your emotions. If he can control his emotions, his career is not over. And by the way, I'd like to let everybody know that my manager, Steve Schuler, and I are thrilled to death. You know why? A book that I wrote every single word myself called A Coach's Journey. I'm partners with the Tennis Channel and Joe Drucker. And no one, remember something, I'm not saying I'm the best coach in the world, but no other coach has done what I have done, including my many mistakes. The book is going to be unbelievable.
That's great, Nick. I mean, we got to also ask at the moment with what's happening, there's been a big shake-up with college tennis as well. A lot of, obviously, it was in the middle of the season got cancelled. What are your thoughts on college tennis in the pathway now that we also know, speaking with the great Craig O'Shaughnessy a couple of weeks ago, the top men are peaking out at 27 and the women at 26 years of age. How important is college tennis now in the pathway?
College tennis is an important factor. Back in the 80s and 90s, I turned my students professional when they were still in diapers. Today, unless you're offered a multi-million-dollar contract, go to college for a few years. So I've changed my whole philosophy. And by the way, Scott Trively of the USTA and a great friend of mine is doing a super job with collegiate tennis. And remember something, college tennis must stay on because a lot of boys and girls do not have the funds to go directly to try to be a professional. But if they go to college and have some positive results, that gives them a message to try to be a professional.
There you go. Yeah. Let me ask you, Nick. This is from Mustafa, who's one of our regular listeners. Wants to know, did you ever get nervous as a coach for any of your players? I guess in tight matches or big matches. And how would you deal with those nerves, especially?
All right, everybody, all of you listen closely. I've flown to test to be a Navy pilot. So I volunteered to be a paratrooper. And I became an officer. And guess what? On my first jump, this little private looked up at me. He said, "Lieutenant, you gonna jump?" "Yeah." He said, "You nervous?" "Son, I got me a diaper on. I'm so nervous." Never be ashamed to say you're nervous, but find a way to get through it. And I found a way to go and jump out of the plane 80 times. And baby, I was nervous every time. And don't be embarrassed to say you're nervous, but find a way to get through it.
It's a great answer. And so, Nick, do you have any stories you could tell us about any of the players that you've worked with that have had moments of real difficulty to get through? Either maybe they're in a losing rut or they're in a stage where they feel they've plateaued and you've helped them out?
Ready? I want to see if you can guess the name. Outstanding player. Got the #2 in the world. He's a director of a big tournament. And this is how he acted on the court. "Oh, the sun! Oh, my shirt is too tight. Red, my assistant coach, you didn't teach me that."
Tommy Haas.
That's right, baby. It's my Tommy. And let me tell you about Tommy. Came to the academy when he was 11 with his sister Sabine, who was playing the Orange Bowl. Tommy's with 6 other boys. Sabine came back from the Orange Bowl. "Let's go home, baby. I'm not staying here." Guess what? 2 years later, his wonderful father and mother sent me their son and a letter and said, "Nick, we're sending you our son to be your son." And Tommy came so close to being my son, only lacking the name Bollettieri. But Tommy, I'm very proud of you, baby.
Another question that we received.
Okay, and another story that's very important. Many years ago, I took my young student, I think he was 16, to Washington, D.C. to play in Donald Dell's tournament. He was in the qualifying round. The match was 6:30. He played a boy from South America, beat the tar out of him, my man. So I left the coach's box, and I said to his brother and his manager and his trainer, "Where's my boy at?" They said, "Nick, he's across the street in a wooded area." I go across there, everybody, and listen closely. Pow! Broke the racket. Pow! Broke the racket. I said, "What's wrong, son?" He said, "Nick, I don't have it. I can't do it." "Do I have a watch on?" He said, "No." I pointed my finger at him in a soft voice. I said, "Don't you ever say I can't do it, but say I will do it." 2 weeks later, we go to Stratton Mountain, and he beat one of the top players of the world. And went on to be #1, doing wonderful things for needy children, Andre Agassi. So all of you listening here, moms, dads, business people, coaches, never say I can't, but say I will find a way to do it. And that's the success that's helped me working with boys and girls of all abilities. Never, never say I can't, but say I will.
Nick, you've been described many times as an incredible overall coach, meaning you're looking at the human, you're coaching them from a life perspective as well as a tennis perspective. How important is it, do you feel, to work with the individual from an internal side as opposed to just going for the technical details or the stuff that we can see very easily?
You know what? That's a hell of a good question. Because techniques can only take you so far, baby. There's many other things that are connected, not only be successful in tennis, but in life. Right now, the game has changed. You can no longer have a weakness in the game. Techniques, physical and mental, baby. All three of those are essential for you to reach your level of success.
I have a follow-up to that then Nick. Let's go strictly to the technical. This is coming from one of our coaches who wants to know, as a coach, what is the most important, I guess, just technical factor, whether it's, the grip, footwork, racket head speed, preparation, momentum. I mean, is there something that you consider the most important, when you're out there?
I think that, first of all, my man Richard Williams, who brought me his two daughters, Venus and Serena. You know what he said to his two daughters? Hit it, baby, hit it. Mr. Agassi said the same thing. Today, I would say you can't hit what you can't reach. And grips are important today. Trying to play with an Eastern forehand is very difficult. Today, you have to have a different grip. And remember something. Do what Mr. Williams said. Run for every single ball before it crosses the net. And there's another message I want to deliver to you. Everybody said Richard Williams was crazy. And there's another man they said they were crazy. But over a dozen years ago at the French Open, he said to me in the interview, I'm going to bring tennis to millions of homes. Ken Solomon. And Nick Bollettieri, when I built the first living tennis academy of the world, they all said I was crazy. And you know what? Crazy people do things that sane people will not do because they're afraid of failure. They do things they know they can be a success in. Not Nick Bollettieri, baby. I do things that people say can't be done. And remember, no matter how good you are, you have to surround yourself with a dedicated staff that believes in you and will dedicate their life to my philosophy.
That's a great answer. It really is. So, Nick, today, in today's tennis, obviously we know how amazingly athletic these players are. A lot of players spending equal amounts of time at the top level off court as they do on court in preparing. Has that changed much in the last few decades or a couple of years? What's your feeling on that?
It sure has. IMG has built one of the most sophisticated gyms in the world. There's no question about it. Part of the IMG, not only tennis program, but all the programs they run is spending hours and hours and hours in the gym. That is very important. Lower body foundation. Remember something. When you have a foundation that's in control, you're able to do all sorts of shots. This is what made Serena Williams. She was able to hit the ball very flat. Why? Because she was in control of her body. Let me say one more thing. People have often asked me, Nick, who was the best player or is the best player in the world? I take the Italian Fifth Amendment to that, but let me tell you, who is the most solid person, techniques, foundation, recovery? Djokovic. His foundation is unbelievable. So you tennis players and coaches, when you watch the good players play, don't copy their techniques. Copy their movement, preparation, their attitude after they miss a ball, like Maria Sharapova. Unbelievable. That's what you want to watch. But remember something. Lower body foundation. Look at Nadal. Lower body foundation is key to the game today.
Let me follow up on that. One of our kids also wants to know. I guess one of the best movers is Monfils. He had an amazing year until everything was shut down. What's your thoughts on him as a player, as a mover? I mean, he just gets to everything. He's got that. He's got that.
But one thing he lacks, and I would love to be with my man Monfils. I gave him a message several years ago and he thanked me. Remember, no matter what shot you hit, look at your game, look at your videos of you playing matches, and then say to yourself, were you in control of yourself mentally the entire match? That's what I would do with him and Kyrgios. I wouldn't say one word, but I would let them look at their videos during matches and say, tell me something. Is that what you want to do to be the best? You can't tell these players what to do. Let them look at themselves, baby. And then you have a better chance of breaking through to them.
That's a great answer. Nick, I've got to ask, right now, no one can get on a tennis court, but it is a great time to become a student of the game. So studying the game, watching matches. If you're going through a grip change or something that is difficult to do, now is a really good time to really understand that and feel that. What advice would you give to any of the kids who are out right now, not able to get on court and compete or swing at full speed? What do you think they should be doing right now?
Let me give you one tip. Get in front of a big mirror in the living room or in your bedroom. Get down into a super ready position like a goalie. Then make a mark on the mirror of the level of your head. Then I want you to practice your backhands and forehands and see if your head stays on the same level when you make contact with that ball. And baby, no charge for that lesson, but that's a hell of a lesson. And look, if we go any further, I'm going to have to go to my $1,000 per hour, baby. But I want to say this to you, to everybody listening, and to Clay. I respect what you're doing. And if I can help any of you improve in any way, Nick and Steve are always there. But remember, moms and dads and coaches, be realistic with your dreams and go one step at a time. And over the next couple of weeks, months, I'm very open to doing this once again. And you know why? Because your academy is very much needed. And if I can help in any way, I'm there for you, baby. And don't forget, a coach's journey will be out soon, and everybody can afford that. God bless you, everybody. And I want to say it was fun doing this today. Now, any more questions, you got to pay for it. Come on, one more question.
All right, Conrad, you want to finish with the last one? There's a couple of really good ones in the chat, but I'll let you pick it. And
well,
then we'll get Nick back on.
Yeah, look, before we do that, I also just wanted to very quickly let everyone know what Nick's up to these days. Nick, you've got some great projects happening. Slinger Bag, you've got the Rebo Walls, you've got the Tennis Ace Trainer. You mentioned your fantastic book that's coming out, Coach's Journey, which you're doing in conjunction with Tennis Channel. And you also mentioned your small inner city program in Bradenton. Do you want to elaborate on any of that for us?
Yes. First of all, the Ace Trainer with Jim Sorrison. It's a little pole with a ball that's stuck to a magnet, and then you have a tennis handle. In order to get that ball to be released, you have to accelerate the racket head on contact. If you don't, the ball stays in place. Next, to hit the overhead, it forces you to hit up and accelerate and have the palm to the outside at the end. If you don't, the serve has no action. And when you volley, you don't dare move that ball, but use the power of the opponent and block it. rebound the wall. Hey, you got a garage door. You got to rebound. And you know why it's good? Because you can get out there by yourself and practice. And that's what makes it so, so good. And last, the slinger bag. Can you imagine weighing around 28 pounds, being able to plug it in, go out on the court, start it, go on the other side without a coach. But what makes it so good is for the coach to be able to stand next to his student and see the little things. Boris Becker gave me a wonderful compliment when he said, Nick is a genius because he stands next to you, sees the little things, gives a little tip, and walks away. So the slinger bag, the rebound wall, and the ace trainer are fantastic. And by the way, you do have a garage door. Get out there, maybe use the little softer ball, but find a way to work out. So I want to say to all of you, I hope that you enjoy a coach's journey. I wrote every word my own self. I don't know how to use a computer, but there are wonderful things in there. And the chapter on leadership and trust was done by my close friend who got me to fly in an F-18, Yogi Berra, a former commander of the Blue Angels. And when you have two planes crossing each other at a combined speed of 1,000 miles an hour, 3 feet from each other, that's trust, baby. So it's a wonderful, wonderful chapter. Then I have Nick's simple tips, nothing to tell you how to teach the game. And the last part of the book, the impact I made on about 70 lives. When you make an impact on a person's life, that goes on for generations. And that's what Nick is all about. Making an impact on you, later on your children, their children, that goes on for generations. And that's what Nick is all about. So everybody, I sure enjoyed being on the program.
Wow, big thanks to Nick for being on. Big thanks for Comrade as well. We hope to have you back as soon as we can. This was unbelievable. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I'm going to put the links to the slinger bag, the Reba wall, and the coach's journey as well, so everybody can look forward to that, to all those products.
And the ace trainer.
Ace trainer, correct. Nick, thanks a lot again on behalf of Centercourt Tennis Academy, on behalf of Clay Bibby, all our viewers, our players, and our coaches. We can't thank you enough for everything you've done for tennis and for the fact that you continue to inspire us all. So thanks a lot, Nick. And, you know, we look forward to this Thursday. We'll have Dr. Mark Kovacs coming on this Thursday to follow up with the legendary one and only Mr. Nick.
And Mark is great. O'Shaughnessy is great. But there's only one Nick Bollettieri, baby.
Oh, for sure. Definitely our best guest by far. Not even close.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Nick.